Hey, everybody. Hope all is well. Well, it's our Tuesday night study session, and I know we had a big weekend of study session, but let's go ahead and open up to Q&A, and it could be follow-up from the weekend or just anything that's going on. Go ahead and fire away.
Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, Greg.
Hey.
At the class Sunday afternoon, you mentioned that when you were working with the cycling group, you had an oil or a oil combination you would use on them when they were training.
Uh-huh.
Or is that oil still available on the website?
Oh, yeah. So are you wanting to do after exercise, or like what are you trying to do?
Put it on before exercise, so as we exercise, it's more effective.
Okay, so the thing that I used like after was I called it something different then, but it's basically the pain relief psychogenic.
Okay.
What I used on them. It's very anti-inflammatory, it's very soothing, and it helps to deal with whatever lower emotions come up. And when somebody is exercising or performing or competing, that competitive component of it, you're performing, you're not performing well, all that kind of stuff brings up all kinds of lower emotions.
Okay.
And so it works really well for treating people in that situation. And then the warm-up oil was warming muscle tonic, and I put it in alcohol. So you could put it in alcohol, you could put it in witch hazel. At the time I was on the road, so I would just buy a big bottle of vodka and make a liniment and then hand it out to everybody. And so that's what I did.
So warming muscle tonic in alcohol or witch hazel?
Right, for before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and before is the one that my wife and I are really interested in.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing to take into account is the sooner you break a sweat in those situations, the quicker you are to be able to go at maximum effort without having a heart rate go up. The heart rate's going to go up, but it's not going to go into like oxygen debt. You stay kind of in your area. And so you can use like Roman chamomile. At the time I was using milfoil, which is a type of yarrow that's not real dark blue. It still has anti-inflammatory properties to it. It's very good for the sympathetic part of the nervous system. It's a nice choice. But you could also potentially use ginger. It's just the reason I didn't use ginger is it can be a little bit like hot or spicy. Like I never find that ginger like irritates my skin, but it's a little spicy. And I just took into account somebody touched their eyes. I didn't want it to be a burning thing in their eyes where, you get anything in your eyes, they're going to water up, but the chamomile and the milfoil, not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So everybody got 2 or 3 drops on their wrists. They got the liniment put on their legs and low back. And then afterwards, we did pain relief psychogenic in a oil base, in a sesame oil base.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
If they were really, I mean, if somebody was really struggling or in those kinds of situations, like the top performer would get like special treatment, the coach would tell me like, give this person extra treatment or extra time. I would do a chakra root cleanser in a cool bath right after they got off the bike. We'd make like kind of a cold bath. And if they had really strain themselves, I would actually put ice in the bath, and then I'd put chakra root cleanser in, stir it up, and they would do that. I usually put 1 pound to 2 pounds of Epsom salt in there as well. And then afterwards I'd put the pain relief psychogenic, but that was usually only on somebody who was potential for like placing in the race or something. So I mean, I didn't do that for everybody. So Yeah, but that was the extra little tidbit, that it helps keep the flexibility, helps like detox on lymphatic level, and it keeps the flexibility keeps things just moving through the legs, so, or wherever you put it for this place. So yeah.
And then go ahead, Denise, then Chris, then Melinda.
Hey, Denise.
Did I push my hand, you guys? Yeah.
Oh, you were unmuted. If you don't have a question, no worries.
Yeah,
No,
it's okay.
well, I do have a question.
Yeah, fire away.
All right, okay, all right. Well, I got my stitches out today, but from,
Oh, tremendous. Good.
I know, so I'm ordering that helichrysum this evening.
Okay.
You guys will get it. All right, with the lavender and all, but my lower back is killing me from trying to keep my head above my heart, for the last 7.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure my neck and hip, but
Yeah.
helping them.
So what oils do you have with you? Let's try to find you comfort in the next 15 minutes. Like yeah.
Basil,
Okay.
and galbanum. I've been using the galbanum. I have some, it's the now though of the marjoram.
Okay.
But everything else is yours that I have, which is
Okay, so you have basil and you have some marjoram and
The marjoram is now.
oh yeah, okay.
yeah. But
And
galbanum,
galbanum. Do you happen to have lemongrass?
no lemongrass. I have black cumin and Dalmatian sage. Those are the only ones I have, and I bought those all off your site. I don't.
Yeah, let's go basil.
Basil, okay.
Yeah, let's go basil. Let's go really heavy with basil. So take like basil and put about maybe 12 drops in your hand, and then a small little bit of some massage oil or lotion, or if you don't have that, even just some form of like alcohol or witch hazel, and then just rub it in your hand and then rub it on your low back. Do a little bit on the hips as well, and as high as you can go, usually when you're reaching around to your low back, you get the low back maybe a little tiny bit higher, but I mean, you could call it good. You can also do a little bit on the neck and shoulder, and the idea just to be unwinding the spine. And then, you could, after you apply it, sit and inhale it and just keep your awareness on the sore spots on your body and let that unwind some of the sore spots.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're so welcome.
The timing was good. Thank
Oh,
you.
good. Yeah, glad you got your stitches out today.
Me too.
And everything looked good. Surgeon was happy. No big surprises there.
He was like, well, there's going to be a scar. I mean, it was really the size of a small amethyst heart. Like the person that was with me, and they showed me, they let me look at the picture today. He goes, he said it was pretty big, so,
Okay.
But we're going to see what your helichrysum,
Yeah. Perfect.
and a lot of prayers over it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then go ahead, Chris, then Melinda, then Megan.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Sam, happy birthday.
I know it's our birthday today. I got her working.
Yeah, what what's the celebration? Going out.
I can hang out with you guys. That's the gift right there.
Hey, Greg, consulting on Barney the Basset Hound.
Okay.
He hurt his tail, and the vet thinks that he whacked it somewhere. And because the x-rays didn't really show much, but his
Like
tail
it's showing like broken, the tail's broken, or there's an abrasion, or
well, he can't really lift his tail when he goes to do his business, and when he does, he yelps. It's almost like he's scared to do his business.
Yeah.
And the tail is kind of always down, and there's like a, how would you describe it, Pops? It's like there's like inflammation on one part of it.
Okay. So I mean, we could go a lot of different ways. The way that I would probably go with this is take some helichrysum and put it in like some alcohol or witch hazel.
Okay.
And you don't have to make it as strong as you would for, like, say, a person. Like maybe an ounce of the alcohol, maybe put like 10 or 12 drops of the helichrysum and shake it up really well, and then rub it all over, like kind of that low back, hip, kind of back of the legs, and touch as much of the tail as he'll let you, but he might not let you. I mean, sometimes
He's
an animal-
letting me.
Oh, he
He's
is. Okay. That's a good
very
sign.
cautiously though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with animals is like, once they're kind of injured, like they don't process it how we do. And like, they just, they react, and it might not always be about pain. Like it's just a memory of pain. Like,
Right.
I had an alpaca one time that slipped and hurt his hip in the snow. And
Aw.
he all of a sudden his legs went really wide, and he walked like a little kid with poopy diapers. Like it was just like watching a 2-year-old walk. And every year when it would snow, he would start walking like that again. Like it was just like a memory that would come back to him. And if he had to walk through snow, he would spread out those back legs, and he walked like he was in pain and had poopy diapers. And like I walked him through the snow, I grabbed him and put him on a leash, and he was having no part of it. And so that's very typical for animals. And so sometimes the reason I'm bringing this up is sometimes it's hard to read how much is actually happening and how much of that is them afraid of what happened.
Right.
And so that you're touching his tail and he's not wincing, could still be a little bit of pain, but that's a good, I mean, if he was in pain and you touched it, he would probably let you know. And so, animals usually don't just like kind of push through it. They would just, try to give you some sort of, communication of like, don't do that.
Yeah, I could lift it like
Yeah.
probably like
So
40%.
the pain is reducing. So that's the good thing. The pain is reducing already. And so we just want to keep the healing process going. And so like try to cover around the tail and get all of that kind of covered. You might want to augment doing the same thing, but with basil.
Oh,
But the
basil.
basil-
Okay.
But basil along the spine. Like do the basil along the spine, and then the helichrysum around the hips, the low back, and the tail, and not so much the butt, but like the back of his legs a little bit, like especially up high. Just take a little bit and just kind of rub it in. And
The helichrysum, you mean, or the basil? Okay.
Yeah, the helichrysum.
So I've been spraying spikenard on him with
Yeah,
that.
that's solid too. I mean, it's
Okay.
calming, it's soothing, it's still antispasmodic, it reduces the pain response. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why that's pretty solid.
Okay. And then with the fear factor, I was trying to do some pH on him. But you know how colors and animals don't really
Yeah,
jive?
yeah. Just do white and just clean his solar plexus and scrub his brain. That's it. That's all you got to do.
That's it. Okay.
For an animal, there's a little bit of an emotional response, and just how they process things. Just scrub the brain a little bit. That's
Okay.
all. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And like just white. Just white.
Just white.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not
No-
even
no-
any
no-
blue, huh?
No colors, no nothing.
Okay.
Just white.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Melinda, then Megan.
Hey, Melinda.
Hi, Greg. I have a
Hey, how are you?
question.
Yeah, fire away.
Like in pranic healing, you clean and energize. So when people are inhaling the oil,
Mhm.
is that doing the same thing or is that doing something
Yeah,
different?
a lot of times it's doing both. It's cleansing and energizing, and you also have the component of where it's the energetic component coupled with the physical component. That's the thing, like what they teach in pH is, when you take energy medicine and you mix it with physical medicine and you put them together, it's a very accelerated healing process. And so a lot of times the same is true with the oils. A lot of times you're doing something where there's cleansing and energizing sometimes in the single oil. And sometimes, like when we go through and we do protocols and there's like several oils used in order, sometimes I'm going through and we're doing like calming agitation and then doing purification and then raising the vibration. I don't always say it like that in the notes, but a lot of times that is what's happening. And I am going to be talking about that a little bit more, like the different components. It's just, it starts to get kind of technical, and I don't want to make it seem like people have to study to be able to do this. I want to make it kind of as easy to use as possible, even though we might be talking about a lot of different things and it is a little bit complicated. Try not to make it more complicated. And the thing with oils, it's a little bit different than just like running energy with your hand. When you take an essential oil, and this is genuine oils, these aren't, this wouldn't work with like incenses, this wouldn't work with like fragrances, and this would not work with oils that have been manipulated, that are like partially genuine and, partially have like some sort of synthetic thing in them. And so when you have a genuine oil and you expose it to the air, you're basically dealing with what they refer to as the evaporation rate. And different oils have different evaporation rates, and it's divided up into 3 categories. There is like a low or they don't call it low. What do they call it? I think they call it fast, medium, and slow is what they do. And so fast evaporation rates are usually like the flowers. Like, if you open up rose, you open up jasmine, you open up neroli, something like that. You open up the bottle and boom, it hits you in the nose almost immediately. But then, maybe a minute later, you don't really smell the rose like you did before, right? So it's kind of in your face, but it doesn't linger for very long. Then you have the medium notes, which are a lot of the oils, things like lavender's a medium note, sandalwood's a medium note, basil's a medium note, marjoram's a medium note. All these oils, they don't necessarily flower or blossom right off the bat. It takes them maybe about a 10 to 15 count, and then they really start to blossom. They'll last for, let's say like a 40 to 50 count. They'll last actually for quite a while. So not immediately in your face. It takes a couple seconds and then it starts to flower, and then you have quite a while of it bouqueting, right? Then you have the heavier notes. And the heavier notes a lot of times don't even begin to flower until about a 50 count, right? So this would be things like spikenard and vetiver, benzoin, even some of the aloes. Some of the aloes can be medium, sometimes they're like a heavy note. Ruscus, Peru balsam, Tolu balsam, the really heavy oils, right? And so the reason why this is important, like for one, if you're blending, you're trying to do a little bit of high note, a little bit of base note, and a lot of medium note. And so you get this really full spectrum blend. But part of why the evaporation rate is also important is as it goes through, and if you were just to sit and smell an oil, it doesn't just smell one particular way, go for 30 seconds, and then it's done. It opens up, it smells a particular way, and then it kind of changes, and it kind of changes, and it kind of changes, and it kind of changes. And so a lot of times how it smelled in the beginning is not how it smells like at the end of its cycle, right? And so with that, you actually have colored prana that is produced by the oil, but as it goes through this evaporation rate, the cycle of evaporation, it most times goes through about 5 different like little mini cycles of producing a different colored prana. And sometimes it's even up to about 7. You know, it depends a lot of times on the oil, but usually it's about 5-ish, right? And so it might start out green, and then it might go blue, and then it might go violet, and then it might go pink, and then it might go, you know, a deeper green, right? And so in the oils, a lot of times you have multiple things happening, not just like how when you're projecting a prana where you're going, oh, this is green, or this is blue, or this is violet. With using the oil, you have several colored pranas that are um, presenting themselves, but this is the really interesting thing with the oils. Depending on how you direct it, sometimes they produce different colors and even smell differently. And so there's a lot of factors in the color pranas that something like emanates or projects, and also how it's distilled can produce a different colored prana. Like I get a tuberose I get 2 different kinds of tuberose, and they both come from the same distiller, and it's the same plant, but one is done at a high temperature distillation and one is done at a low temperature distillation. And the high temperature has like kind of a heavier note, and it's more of like a deep violet prana, and then starts off deep violet. And then the low temperature is this really high note, sweet smelling note. And it starts off with this really brilliant, like kind of pink prana. And then they kind of cycle slightly differently. And it's the same plant, but it was prepared differently. And so, you know, part of what, like when I put things together, I'm looking at not just like what oils go together, but I'm also looking at what kind of colored pranas is this going to produce? What kind of energy is this going to produce as it goes through its cycles? And so when you're first learning it, single oils are much easier to kind of nail with that. But then when you start dealing with the blends, you can get really kind of you can cover a lot of ground with a blend if it's, you know, used and directed properly. And so, you know, a lot of times when we're doing the classes and we're going through and we're doing these really involved processes, and you know, I've made a blend specific for a process or, you know, part of the anatomy or some, you know, physiological function. The blend is tailored so that all those cycles continue to work on that even after you're done inhaling. It's continuing to cycle through some things in the body, and the colored pranas will help to produce a deeper result, as well as you're inhaling, you're getting the chemistry in your lungs. And so as it goes through your lungs, the blood, you know, passes through your lungs and absorbs some of the chemistry from the plant, which is tied to the molecules. And you're getting the physical component that physicalizes in the body. And so, you know, Master Choa's teacher, for the ones that are familiar with PH, he says this, and I believe it's the Om Mani Padme Hum book, that, you know, his teacher in different traditions went by different names. You know, in Buddhism, Buddha Mi Ling, which is Master Choa's teacher, was known as Buddha Padmasambhava, which is the being that brought Buddhism to Tibet. Then in the Hindu tradition, this same being was Lord Rama, right? And then in the Egyptian tradition, that same teacher was known as Nefertem. And Nefertem, not Nefertemi, but Nefertem. And Nefertem actually started Greater Mystery School, the inner mystery school, and he was or is, however you want to say it, the deity of healing and aromatherapy. Like, I mean, Master actually has that in his book. And so tied to a lot of energy practices, a lot of healing practices through the centuries, they've used plants as part of the healing process because, you have the energy component, you have the physical component, and even if it wasn't essential oils, it was the use of herbs. And a lot of times it was the burning of herbs or incenses. They used to call them holy smokes or holy smudges. And part of it is that you take all the things that we just talked about, and then you begin inhaling something, and the sense of smell is one of the quickest ways to shift the brain, the nervous system, and even the thought processes. It's a very quick way to shift behavior very quickly because it's tied to the olfactory system. And as you go through and inhale, we're kind of wired to adjust and adapt to our environment. And so when you go through and you inhale something, it kind of puts you in a different state. So for healing or spiritual practices, it puts you in this place or this state where healing can happen, or deeper spiritual experiences can happen, deeper levels of stillness, whatever it might be. And so you have a lot of layers that happen with oils. And so, all through the years, I always used oils, but I was doing other things, but I always kind of kept my hand in using the oils with everything that we did, because it was a way to also send people home with something that they could do on their own in between sessions and things like that. And as time went by, I just kept going harder and stronger with the oils because it's such an easy way to produce a result. And so it started becoming the primary way that I would do healing. And I would still do other modalities, but like the oils were the primary thing that I did. And so, there's cleansing, there's energizing, there's fortifying, there's also helping the body shift or change or go into allostasis. There's dealing with agitation in the body. There's a lot of different aspects or components. One that I always really try to work on in a lot of the blends or the approaches is regeneration, because regeneration is, on one level, it is helping to reboot something to go back to a more proper form of like action or activity. And so a lot of times in the nervous system, it's re-educating the nervous system. If we're talking about regeneration that's tied to circulation, you're just trying to increase blood to a particular area. But when you start talking from the point of view of the nervous system, you're trying to reboot the nervous system so that it goes back to a more appropriate form of like firing. Because, when we have dysfunction, the body starts firing in a different way to adapt. But after a period of time, it doesn't go back to the way it should be. It just goes like, this is the new way of functioning, even though it's wrong. This is what we're doing now. And so you actually have to re-educate the nervous system to get like back on track. And so a lot of times the blends are tied into regenerating certain processes. And then there's also a regeneration of the emotional body and the mental body, where again, you're trying to take something, a good example right there is helichrysum for trauma, right? Helichrysum for trauma, it helps to release the trauma, but at some point it helps the heart move past the trauma, like to move past and not be stuck in the moment where the trauma happened, or to just be caught in the story and all that, and move on and keep embracing something new. And so it's dealing with trauma, it's dealing with a little bit of fear, it's dealing with a little bit of stress. And so you could say, in a way, that is regenerating the emotional body or regenerating the heart, to help it to do what it does. But when it was traumatized, it stopped doing it, like it shut down for a little bit. So it has to be regenerated to be able to function like it used to, and you can unring the bell, but at the same time, if you properly regenerate something, a lot of times not only does it function like it used to, but it's usually stronger because of whatever it went through. And so, all of this is a target for any sort of healing that we do, we're trying to achieve these different aspects. And one of the amazing thing with oils is a lot of times you can achieve several aspects at once. You're able to integrate this approach by maybe using a few different oils in a rotational approach, or even a single oil, and you're directing it to different parts of the body, or to different energy centers, something like that. And so the oils can be very, very dynamic. If you direct lavender for one thing, and if you're looking and scanning at the prana, it will be violet. I think everybody kind of recognizes the lavender. I mean, it's built in the name, lavender, right? But if you direct it to do something that's more cleansing and you scan it, there'll be very little violet there. It will actually be a lot of green prana. It's the same plant, it's just being directed in a different way. And so a lot of times how we direct these plants is our intention of how we're going to apply it, where we're putting it on the body, but also kind of even your thought processes. You're already starting to communicate with the plant a little bit. So that's why sometimes we do that process about like increasing the connection to the plant, because the more that you communicate with the plant, when you direct it to the body or the psyche, it calibrates itself to be more effective rather than just blindly like putting it on something. And it's the same idea with pranic healing. When you go through and you scan an area, you're measuring how depleted or how congested it is, but you're also tapping into that part of the body so that when you start cleansing or energizing, because you've been spending time scanning it, you form the intention that's where you're going. So then when you start working on that area, it's very specific to where you're going rather than just willy-nilly on that particular area. So there's different ways to fine-tune how you direct the energy of a plant or a stone or energy itself, but the plants do multiple things.
Very fascinating. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And one last question. Do you have
Sure.
a certification for someone to work with the oils to help heal people?
What's that? Say that again.
You have like a certification program, so someone really
Yeah,
can-
we have we kind of have like a long-term one, and we just did a class doing the Sun healing technique where we're giving a certificate with that. We're going to have the certificates be going out here sometime soon. And so there's that, but there's people who are doing like kind of long-term study and doing things that are wanting to have some sort of certification in different areas. It could be medical aromatherapy, like aromatherapy / like psychological healing, one for the materialization process, and one's for working with angels. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Megan.
Hey Greg, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Hey, so I want to ask about ADD. I just read Dr. Raymond's book about the 7 types of ADD, at least the essential chapters. I'm not a doctor, but it sounds like my son has ADD. I also think my husband has it, but starting with my son, and he says it's genetic, so that seems to fit. He has, I'm pretty sure it's type 3, which is over-focused ADD. He gets stuck on things. He goes in mental loops. He also, it even has the last paragraph of that chapter says that this type of ADD, the person can have basically Tourette's or a form of Tourette's. And he definitely has these jerky movements, usually his jaw or neck or head, that he says he doesn't notice or doesn't know why he does it. And it really sounds like that to me. And when he was younger, he was even more kind of spazzy, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. And so like, so part of it is jerky motion and some of it is blurting things out, but it's not always profanity and things,
Oh, yeah.
Kind of
he doesn't have, he has no filter and
no filter is what I was looking for.
Yeah. Blunt, like so blunt.
Yeah. Blunt and not even like picking up any social cues, like I should probably be careful about saying this, just like
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
It's not too bad. Like I don't think it's severe. He does great in school and like he's functional as a normal kid and everything like that. And he has lots of friends and gets along well. But like it's actually when he's at home and he's comfortable, he just feel like really disrespectful to me, like say something rude to his sister and she cries. And I constantly teach him how to talk the right way. It makes no difference. Like he just unlearnable right now anyway. So challenging.
And his abilities, like with school and everything, seem to be okay.
Great. Loves school. So when he's in, this is what the book pointed out, because I thought he doesn't have attention deficit. But what the book pointed out is if they like something, they're fine. But if they don't like something, they will have a really hard time getting through it. But he happens to like everything at school. So that actually goes well. He does really well.
And like for now, like, you know, what happens in 5
Until it gets
years,
boring.
Yeah, wait till he hits geometry or something, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah. Actually, he really loves math. I don't know. It'll be
good.
something- actually, doesn't like art very much. He's very left brain.
Yeah. I mean, some of the issue is that like you said, that there is an issue like when they're doing something and they don't like it. It's actually, it's not that they're in pain, but that process is tied to like pain mechanisms. Not necessarily that they feel like ouch, but it's like low tolerance for discomfort, low tolerance for you know, sometimes it's conflict or you know, like
Disappointment, like
like if I
had,
start
like,
something and can't do well in it right off the bat, then I'm gonna
he
not
gives up
do it
easily.
or have a meltdown, and which you know is okay for a little bit of things, but you know, most of the things that are going to be good, it's going to take a bunch of effort and you're going to kind of suck at it for a while, you know. And so like for me, that starts to be a little bit of like a threshold issue, like and it starts to be a little bit of like a limbic response. Remind me, how old is he?
He's gonna be 10 in a month. So one more thing the book said is that he might have low serotonin or a hard time having a serotonin higher. So that seems to be tied to like being uncomfortable, disappointed, and sad easily. Or is that a separate from what you're saying?
No, I would put that all in the same mix.
Okay.
Yeah, I would put that all in the same mix. And his sleep, how is his sleep?
So this was such, oh my gosh, like they described babies with ADD and they said how much trouble they have sleeping, and it like so many lights went off. He was like literally insomniac baby, and now I think it's okay. He'll just take a while to fall asleep, but I don't know how good the quality of sleep is. But it's fine. But as a kid, it was bad. He woke up at 4:30 when he was 2 years old. He just took these huge naps to make up for it and stuff.
You know, there's different ways of like looking at the ADD, ADHD kind of processes, and you know, one level is, you know, you look at the chemistry and you look at some of the brain function, but then there's like another approach of even taking a step farther back and going, okay, when we look at how the different systems are working, is there an issue in one of the systems, and then is it overriding another system, or is it being overstimulated by another system? Not quite like acupuncture, but you're looking at it from like a kind of almost like an osteopathic point of view, where you're looking at anatomy, physiology, but you're looking at it as like these groups of like patterns or rhythms in the body, and like how is it all working together.
Mhm.
And like what you're describing, and where I was starting to go with it, like when you go through and talk about the issue of like I say pain, but it's not how you would traditionally think of pain, right?
Yeah, a
It's not
type of
like
pain.
ouch. It's just like discomfort, conflict, something that's unresolved. And in all of that, it is very like two-dimensional thinking. Like they have a difficult time seeing the consequences to their
Yes.
thoughts, actions, or behaviors.
Yeah.
Like it's all just like right here, right now. Like no,
Yeah.
like if I do this for 3 months, I'm going to be really good at this. Or
Yeah.
if I say this 3 or 4 times, this group of people is not going to be my friend anymore. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no like kind of processing like that. And that is tied, if you think about it, it's tied to the sympathetic nervous system, which is tied to fight flight, and fight flight is all about right now. Like
Okay.
I need to run or I need to fight. I need to stand my ground. I need to get out of here. Like, it's
Mhm.
all about now,
Yeah. Yeah.
where like if you're looking at issues in the parasympathetic or in the somatic nervous system and the limbic system, they all have their characteristics, so to speak, right? And so here you're wanting to unwind the sympathetic part of the nervous system. And so the very first thing that we usually do is, and this is is you go through and you really unwind agitation. Like
Mhm.
like that part of the system is highly agitated for whatever reason. It doesn't necessarily have to be because of an event. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes people are just like born that way, or
Yeah.
the birthing
I mean, it could be
process
me.
happened
Whenever
that
I
way.
do a lot of healing, he gets better. Like he'll sleep better after I like get something resolved in myself. Like I noticed, especially when he was younger, and my daughter too. Like I would go through a few classes and work a few classes, and then I was like, well, I feel great. I feel better. And I'm like, the kids are sleeping better now. This is it could
Yeah,
be.
but he's starting to get to the age where that's probably like that usually happens up to about 8 or 9. And
Okay.
if it's still happening, great. But like as their mental body starts to develop, that will have less influence.
Be
Like
separate.
you kind of bank on that. Like when you're dealing with kids, there's times where you treat the mom to help
Yeah.
impact, and treating the dad usually doesn't work. It's usually like, if you do something on the mom, then even if the mom doesn't have the issue, like you almost like treat the mom and she sets the pattern for the child.
Yeah. That's so
And
interesting.
so, but you're almost like out of time there. Like it might
Yeah,
still
yeah.
work for a little tiny bit, but it's not going to work for much longer.
Yeah.
And so let me
Okay.
look
So unwind the sympathetic nervous
so
system.
you're looking at let's see, for a kid. Let me just look a couple things up here in my notes. So I think we've discussed in the past using African bluegrass on him, correct?
Yeah, that helped him be less crabby.
Okay, so African bluegrass is very good for mood, but not so much thought process. Not like mood is almost like kind of the precursor to like the emotional stuff. So it works for some things, but it's not going to work for everything.
Okay.
And so let me just, I'm finding something here. Yeah, it actually might work for this. Okay, so will he sit and do a pattern or no?
Yeah, just I
Probably
actually
not often though.
basal ganglia pattern that you gave me. It by the way, a separate story that blew my mind with the poplar. And I had him do it. It changed my life after one application. My sleep
It's huge.
has
It's
transformed
huge.
into something it has never been. I'm a completely different sleeper.
Yeah.
And so I did it every day for several days. It felt like somebody just literally gave me an amazing drug Oh my God, I felt so blissed out for about 5 days. I was like, this
Yeah.
is awesome. And then it kind of like integrated or wore off or whatever. But every once in a while I do it.
Well, it's like the basal ganglia starts to change, and then it's like, well, I need stronger poplar. I need stronger whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
that must be it. Give me the higher dose.
yeah. So
Yeah, he'll do it. I'll make him. He'll do
okay, so we actually might be able to get away with African bluegrass. The other one that I would probably throw in the mix would be helichrysum.
Okay.
Poplar too, but that might be a little much for him. Let's maybe start African bluegrass or helichrysum, and the pattern for this would be, you know, that pattern: front heart, back heart, forehead, back head. Anytime you do that, you're impacting the aspect of the sympathetic nervous system, and then how it begins to impact like the thoughts and emotions.
Okay.
And so you know, try the bluegrass, and then if that doesn't work, try the helichrysum. And it might be one of those things where you got to kind of keep rotating it. Like on an adult, I use the blend King of Pain. It was in like one of the kits, and I don't even know that we have it on the site, or if we do.
I have it.
Yeah, so that's what I use on an adult. And
Okay.
It's only one aspect of treating the sympathetic nervous system, but a lot of times if you calm that down, the very first thing that starts to happen is it starts to really release a lot of stress from the nervous system, and you'll start to have a release of emotions from the solar plexus and thoughts from the throat.
Okay.
Like it'll just kind of come pouring out.
Okay.
And so as you unwind the sympathetic nervous system, like all the emotions come out, like stress, fear, trauma, elemental, psychic attack, you know, whatever it is, if it's there, it just comes pouring out. So we want to go through and start unwinding that first component. I mean, I'll tell you the things that I do for it. It's I do agitation right off the bat. I do the King of Pain, which could also be African bluegrass or helichrysum. Poplar is the big main ingredient in the King of Pain, so poplar would always be strong for that. And then the second component is raising the vibration of the body. And anytime you raise the vibration, you're increasing the conductivity to the higher soul. You're improving function of that particular system, and you're helping it to not go to like lower vibrational functions, like to, for example, to like be less reactive and be more regulated, or you know, you're increasing the function. Like anytime you're raising the vibration, it's like the efficiency of the system or the organ that you're treating gets like more efficient, you know, not because of cleansing, not because of energizing, just because it's able to absorb more like life force on its own. It's like it's like saying you could give a man a fish, or you could teach him how to fish. Right, raising the vibration, you're teaching the body part to fish, rather than going, here's some energy, here's some energy, here's some energy, here's some energy, right? And so that is, I use de-stress, but Larch would also work for that.
Okay, I have Larch.
Yeah, and then the next piece would be to do some regeneration, which means also re-education. And that would be like milfoil or yarrow. You know, I don't know if you have either one of those.
A little milfoil somewhere, but I have to figure out what class.
Yeah, it can just be inhalation. Like it doesn't have to be a big. So, and then purification. I like to use either Dalmatian sage here, or the sage triloba, or the Australian sage.
Yeah, Dalmatian.
Okay, perfect. And then fortifying, which just means like strengthening, but without like stimulation or anything like that. Fortifying can also have a bit of a regulating effect as well. Galbanum is the key there. And then allostasis, which allows this system to be able to change and become something different, you know, basically change to go back to a more appropriate way of functioning. That is Palo Santo. In here, this last term is stimulation, but it's not stimulation like drinking a cup of coffee. It's stimulating the system to function appropriately, not like just go 90 miles an hour, right? So stimulation has a very different context here than you would say, like, you know, just putting a bunch of red prana on something, or giving somebody 2 cups of espresso, or, you know, just getting, you know, I think you get the idea. You're trying to stimulate like the processes of that particular system, because sometimes some of the processes have shut down. And you know, it sounds like they're all kind of different ways of saying the same thing, but they are literally these different aspects that you're going through and treating. And so with that, I use Blue Healer, but you could use Dark Blue Tansy. You could use, you probably could use Spikenard here. Probably could use Vetiver here.
Okay. First 2, so I'll try Spikenard.
Yeah, but I mean, the Blue Healer, like if you put Blue Healer, for one, Blue Healer is incredibly anti-inflammatory, right? But if you put it like on somebody's back, like 10-15 drops, just like neat, and just kind of rub it in, it's anti-inflammatory, it's soothing to the body, it usually knocks them out. Like it's so soothing to the emotional body, and it's so soothing to the nervous system that it's just very, very soothing and sedating.
Cool.
And so, and it's doing it more like out of soothing than just like trying to sedate the nervous system. And so by doing that, that fight flight mechanism, you know, it's still functioning, but it's like, instead of being pedal to the metal and at a 9, it goes back down to like a 2, and it can still go to a 10, but it's like in a resting state. Like, you know, it's like it functions when it should, but when it shouldn't, it actually goes back to a resting state. Where especially the sympathetic nervous system can go to like a state of function and just go, this is what we do now. Like,
he's a bit wound up.
Down. And if he's having insomnia, he's having a hard time focusing, he gets triggered really easy, lots of lower emotions, a mind bouncing around, you know, everything's serious, like either or. Like going back to sympathetic function, I either run or I fight. Like it's either or. Like whenever you see a lot of either or kind of thinking, that's always sympathetic nervous system. Always. It's so agitated, and it sends a bunch of impulses up. It then communicates, and the information eventually gets to the endocrine system, and then it becomes a bit more ingrained in the person, because the endocrine system is now starting to back up what the nervous system is saying. And so when you go through and you start making these changes in the sympathetic nervous system over a period of time, it's like the nervous system changes the conversation with the endocrine system. And over a period of time, at first, it'll be like you do it, and then they're good for a couple of days, and then it bounces back, and then you do it, and it bounces back, and then you do it. And then at some point you reach this tipping point where something kind of switches, and they're just kind of different after that. That's when the endocrine system has shifted and is following the instructions from the nervous system.
Cool. Okay.
I mean, I'm saying it in a really kind of simple way, but I mean, that's the gist of it. I mean,
Yeah. So for the first step, was the the pattern with that.
African? Yeah,
But the other ones we can just do straight in
same pattern.
in
Same
order.
pattern.
Oh,
for all
same
of them.
pattern with each.
Yep,
Okay. Okay.
yep, same pattern for all of them.
Okay. So I might end up like I could do 2 of them on Monday, and then I could do
Sure.
the next two on Tuesday, and then okay.
And I would do it and then sweep him down, like sweep him down, sweep out his solar plexus. So here's the thing: when you go through and do any of these versions where I go through and I go, okay, agitation and raising vibration and, you know, all this is it's changing the brain. And so
Yeah.
go through and clean things up, but then scrub his brain. Like just like go through and scrub. Because a lot of times what I do, like with this, when I'm treating people like one-on-one or something, is I have them do that pattern. And then whatever the oil is, I have them go to the brain and inhale it with their awareness on the brain and then move
Okay.
to the next one. And so, you know, eventually it evaporates off, you know, the negative energy. But if you can do, you know, some form of healing, craniosacral, you know, pranic healing, whatever, you can accelerate that process. So
Okay. That's what I was going to ask. The ADD
salt
protocol.
baths are a great way to accelerate it, by the way.
Okay.
Just throwing him in a salt bath would do a lot of what you would do in the healing.
Okay, great. That's even easier. I was gonna say
Yeah.
like
let's be super
25
practical about it.
steps, just
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it 2
yeah.
times a week. So I was gonna say
Have
replace
him inhale,
that.
throw him in a bath.
And throw him in a
That's what
bath,
I would
okay.
do.
Yeah, he was sick a couple weeks ago and I was like, can you please take a salt bath? He would never do it before. And he finally said yes. And it really helped him get over the cold faster. I did some chocolate cleanser in it. So I think maybe he had a good bath experience and I can
Yeah,
convince him.
good.
So we'll see. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Keep me posted, and at some point I want to hear your share about the basal ganglia thing.
Yeah, that was the gist of it. But
Okay.
If nobody else wants to talk, I've talked so long, but later, more on the OCD protocol. I don't have the Mahakala, which was, I know, one of the oils on the Facebook page, which has a simplified approach, but later someone else take a turn first.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll go through the chat here and then I'll call on you again. Again, you guys can always raise your hand. You can unmute yourself, keep typing in the chat for any questions. What would you use for lactic acid with exercise?
Oh, yeah. So you could use a few different things. Sometimes when you do things that are kind of anti-inflammatory, but also supporting the liver. So, you know, I think we were talking to Ralph in the very beginning and he was saying, what do you use like pre-exercise? The post-exercise, I was using pain relief psychogenic. It's a lot of chamomiles, helichrysum, and it has like juniper and ginger. And it also has a lot of vetiver in it. And that combination is very good for helping to reduce inflammation, increase the circulation, but it's also somewhat supportive to liver function. And like anytime you increase and improve liver function, the lactic acid gets processed much easier. You know, going through and doing things where you reduce the stress in the respiratory tract and you deepen the breath also will help reduce the production of lactic acid ahead of time. But then after the fact, you use things that are anti-inflammatory, and one that's a little bit of a sleeper that you wouldn't think of for reducing some lactic acid from the legs is celery seed. It needs to be topical. Sometimes I've even used it just by itself, but like usually like with athletes or somebody who has a really regimented like exercise practice, you could do the helichrysum by itself. You could do the pain relief psychogenic. The blue healer would probably also work for that. I've done versions of that for like post-exercise, but my kind of go-to one is the pain relief psychogenic, or you could just use chamomile, or not chamomile, helichrysum. Yeah. Very, very helpful usually. Yeah. Yeah, you know, they've done studies with endurance athletes and like the buffering of lactic acid. And a lot of times athletes that are really good endurance athletes, they buffer lactic acid to a much higher degree than the average person. And sometimes it's the lung capacity. Actually, they don't even produce as much lactic acid as normal people. So it's a lot of times can be an either or. And so when that's in play, I usually try to treat the breath for before, and then after treat the liver and inflammation. So yeah.
Great. Question, what are elementals?
Elementals are energies from the environment. You could call them like energetic building blocks from the environment. So whenever you think something really repetitively and intensely, or you have really strong emotions, you begin attracting energy from the environment that helps bring it into form. So a lot of times, like your thought processes are not really a thought form, it's thought energy. And like, or, you know, it's just the energy of thought. You keep thinking and thinking and thinking it. And when it gets to a certain like density, it starts to attract energy from the environment to bring that idea into form. So you're literally attracting elementals, taking the energy of thought and mixing it with the energy from the environment to create a thought form. You know, you're drawing in those energies from the environment that are related to form. And so elementals, another way of saying that from the point of view of psychology or physiology would be conditioning. Like you could call elementals, the nature of elementals are conditioning. They're also tied to psychological resistances. And then in the immune system, the nervous system, and the endocrine system, all of which those three systems have like a memory of sorts. And so they just remember the things that they're exposed to, and they kind of keep remembering so that they adjust and adapt to the environment in a way that's can be progressive, right? And so if you looked at it from the point of view of energy, what are those mechanisms? Those mechanisms are associated with elementals. So.
Thanks. Someone to say thank you for the morning protocol.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad. I hope somebody got to do it at least a little bit. Yeah, we've been doing versions of this for a while by burning some incense in the morning, and we have actually started doing this like odd thing too. That's very Tibetan, very Buddhist, and it's also very Native American. We also burn like a few sticks of incense like outside the front door, like to clean up the energy from the environment and the energy that gets tracked in back and forth, but also to help attract like more appropriate energies into the house and everything. It's like an offering to the nature spirits and elementals and things in the environment. And so yeah.
And then go ahead, Megan.
Hey, Megan.
You're talking about me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'd love to do, I want to try a full OCD protocol. Yeah, I kind of told you the gist of what happened. What I was amazed by was that it only took one application to just flip something huge. And so when I wake up in the night, instead of laying there and thinking about literally every area of my life for anywhere from 15 to 60 minutes, I just have to sleep. Like, I mean, I didn't do that every time I'd wake up during the night, but frequently. And the worst one is I'd usually wake up an hour to an hour and a half before the kids would have even woken me up, and then can't go back to sleep. And that one really bugged me the most because it's hardest to go back when it's already, 6 a.m. instead of like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Here, So, oh my God, thank you for that. It's been
So,
awesome.
and like, you did the protocol on Facebook, or you just did the basal ganglia?
No, I did the one you told me. Let me find it really quick. It was just like a few chakras. One second here. Sorry. I mean, not in order, but it was like forehead, back head. There was perineum
Oh,
and
yeah.
in there.
And
So
then like solar plexus, Ming Men, cranium,
yeah,
soles of the feet. Yeah, for the basal ganglia. Yeah.
I'll find it and post it.
Yeah.
But,
No,
um,
yeah, I
it's like the strongest thing I've ever done in all
Yeah.
the years of classes for me.
Yeah. And so, one of the ways that you can further support that, like a bit more specific to OCD, is you can keep doing that particular pattern, but also take a couple of drops of Palo Santo a couple times a day in water.
Okay.
Yeah. It will deepen the effect. And, I had forgotten about this. And over the weekend, when we were talking about all these different conditions, I remembered that I did this little thing for, I don't know, it was like a year or two, might have been about 18 months, where we were treating some people with OCD. And it was just, it's a really hard thing to treat. Like, it's not straightforward. It's, there's some conditions where it's very straightforward. That is not one of them.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to come up with ways that were just really simple. Like
Yeah.
I want to be able to do it, but I don't want it to be like this 50-step process or, And so we did several things. We did a thing with mugwort. We did, all these different things. The thing that got some moderately good results was I had people taking 2 to 3 drops of Palo Santo twice a day. And I remember going back and looking at the data, and they would say like it didn't make the OCD go away, but it reduced it, by maybe 25-30%. And they said it made it more manageable. Like they could make choices rather than like, I have to do this.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, it's not a complete thing, but like sometimes when I go through and do something like that, it's like, well, if I take that little piece and this little piece and this little piece, and I put them all together, that's starting to be kind of a, full protocol maybe. And so I would include the Palo Santo in that mix,
Okay. Yeah. So I
that
found
pattern
it.
of the basal ganglia, it is a very, very strong pattern. It is a very strong pattern.
It was awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so it was for people, and I'll type it, but it was poplar. You just inhale forehead, back head, then forehead, back head together, then solar plexus, back solar plexus, then Ming Men, perineum, soles, and jaws. Spend most of the time on jaws. I can type it in too.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Some people are.
I can tell you a way to magnify that.
Ooh.
If you'd like, if you'd
Go
like.
ahead. Yes, I can type later. Ready?
So you're actually not going to use oils. You're going to use a mantra. And you could use the mantra of your choice. I usually have people use either Om Mani Padme Hum or Om Rama Om or Ling Ha.
Okay.
Whichever one kind of resonates with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you put your awareness on the joints of your body. So you'd go to the armpits first. And so you could do this in bed, you could do this laying down, you could do this on the couch or on the floor or something. But you just put your awareness on your armpits, and you really keep your awareness on the armpits, and then Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum.
Okay.
And you keep doing it until your mind wanders off.
Okay.
Like, so it might be 2, it might be 50. You know what I mean? Like at first it might not take very long, but after a while you keep doing it until your attention like kind of wanders. Right?
Okay.
And then you kind of bring your attention back, and then you go to the elbows. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And then when your mind wanders off, bring it back, go to your wrists, and then do your hands. Then the hips, the back of the knees, the ankles, and then the soles of the feet.
Okay.
And usually by the soles of the feet, you're having a hard time like keeping your attention there. So I usually have people do it several times on the feet.
Okay.
Do
Awesome.
that after you've done the
The oil one. Okay.
basal ganglia, and yeah,
Nice.
it will calm your mind down more than you would think.
All right. Thank you. I'll tell you all about it after.
Yeah. And sometimes it's finding the right mantra. Like for me, I use the mantra for Mahakala. And that's not one that I think is for everybody, but usually Om Mani Padme Hum is the one that people will use. It's very soothing. It's very healing. It's calming and soothing to the emotional, mental body. It's very purifying. It basically, that mantra helps bring light into wherever you're directing it. So you're bringing light. And if you think about what you're doing is you're treating the arms and the legs. So you're getting spiritual energy into the arms and legs, which is getting spiritual energy into the basic chakra. And so like if you were to scan the person before, you go, okay, spiritual energy in the mental body, spiritual energy in the emotional body. And then almost everybody, you go spiritual energy in the physical body, it's substantially less, right? So then you go through and you do the work with the basal ganglia, right? And then you go through and you do the mantras on the arms and legs. And then you go, okay, energy, the spiritual energy or soul energy in the mental body, the emotional body. Usually the basic or the physical body is like double or triple what it is for the emotional and mental body, which is unheard of. And so what happens is it impregnates the physical body. And then eventually that filters up into the emotional body and the mental body. Like the same things that generate the lower emotions and the tendency to be triggered and all that, you're physicalizing the spiritual energy, and then it's washing up through those processes. So it literally changes your emotions and your how your mental body functions, especially tied to like instinct, instinctual responses, lower emotions. It helps produce like more higher emotions, and it actually helps to cultivate more of the intuitive mind.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you do have to do a little bit more purification. Like if you're doing that, I would take more salt baths. Like,
Okay.
Especially like any of the blends that were from the Senafana healing technique, which, Glory of Lebanon, Moses, charcoal root cleanser, Master's Blend, Aura Cleanse, Solomon's Hyssop, or Nimbus.
Yeah.
Just rotate something out of that and take a bath in it, and it will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And Letty posted the centers for the joints. And then Megan's gonna post that basal ganglia protocol there for you guys as well. And we have about 15 minutes. That looks like everything in my chat is.
Yeah, if somebody doesn't have anything, maybe we'll run everybody through the basal ganglia.
That sounds like a great idea.
So, let's see, how should we do this with oils? Okay, let's give choices, and after that, we'll give some other ones. If you have poplar, pull that out. If not, helichrysum would work, rue would work, galbanum, vetiver, African bluegrass, marjoram, or lovage. If you have any of those, let's have you use those. If not, basil would work. Or camphor. Yeah, especially for something like this, camphor could be quite good. Even hyssop could work.
But again, I just want to make sure poplar balsam's the top choice.
Yeah, poplar is premium, like King of Pain or poplar.
Oh, King of Pain too.
Mhm.
Okay, so I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, I don't think I said it. I think I just started going through single oils. I'm still kind of thinking the way I was on the weekend, to just do single oils and not blend. Okay, begin inhaling. Your awareness is on your forehead. Continue to inhale. Your awareness is on your forehead. Move your awareness to the back head, the back of your head. Move your awareness to your front solar plexus, the area below your ribs. Yeah. Move your awareness to the back solar plexus. The mid-back area. Go to your low back, opposite the navel. And then the note says perineum. Go to the perineum. which is the floor of the pelvis in between the sex organs and the anus, the very bottom of the floor of your pelvis. Okay, thank you. Now move your awareness to the soles of your feet. Move your awareness up to your jaws where they hinge in front of the ear. You're still focusing on your jaws. Just let go. Let go of everything. Just let go. Begin inhaling again. Your awareness is on your forehead and your back head at the same time. Your front solar plexus The area below your ribs. Your back solar plexus, the mid back area. The low back area opposite the navel, known as the Mingmen. The perineum, which is the floor of the pelvis. The soles of the feet. In your jaws, where they hinge in front of the ears. Okay, be still, just be aware, let go. So we need to switch over to the Angel Steady group and keep the oil that you're working with, and I'd say jump over with us. We're going to continue this in the Angel and then take it a step further. So I'll see you in just a minute or two on the other link. And sorry we have to do this little jump, but the way we're scheduled. So go ahead and follow us over to the next study group.